This show was recorded live on Thursday, April 17th, 2014 at 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Tune in, join the live chat, and call in during the show by going to adamversustheman.com/live. Wow, Adam versus the man! Can humanity handle freedom? Or do we need to rely on government for peace and stability? Lots of people ask this very, very fundamental question when they first hear of the libertarian philosophy, this crazy idea that yes, all human relations should be free of violence and force and fraud and coercion. Imagine that radical, crazy idea when you live in a world of violence. And the current paradigm is, yes, we need this organized gang of thugs to rule over us. Okay, well, maybe that's how the libertarian would put it. How would the statist put this? Let's examine exactly the thinking behind this perhaps not legitimate, but very common reaction that people have to this idea. And what we advocate as libertarians is not an abandonment of the legitimate functions that government provides. Certainly society needs to come together to deal with bad actors, to violent criminals, with thieves and thugs and murderers. But certainly we can find a way to deal with them that's better than, electing them to public office and giving them tax dollars and the authority to decide their own salaries. I mean, it sounds like kind of a dangerous utopian proposition, doesn't it? That we can do this. We can have some kind of rule of the majority in a democracy or in a republican form of government, which is, sorry, kiddies, still a form of democracy, and not have these consequences of the fundamental truth of what is going on here. Democracy, in its very best case scenario, is the majority coming up with an excuse to impose its will on the minority. But as we know, in reality, democracy is really just an excuse, ex post facto, for the superclass to do what they were going to do to the rest of us anyway. And by the way, so is the Republic. And if you think that the Constitution is a freedom document, let me tell you another thing here, because if you understand the history, it is an anti-freedom document, not only in and of itself, but historically is a step backwards from the Articles of Confederation that the colonies were living under until 1789, when we had that brief relative freedom here. Over there on the other side of this territory, now lorded over by the United States federal government. So this is a legitimate response to a new idea, to question it, to challenge it. Are we capable of this? Really, but perhaps you then have to ask some other questions. How is it going now with government, with the current statist paradigm? And, when we talk about the ideal of a stateless society, yes, that is very, very much achievable. Even a voluntary society, in the sense that it embraces nonviolence universally and does not tolerate it in any form, institutionalized or on an individual level. But we're not pretending that there is this perfect ideal of a voluntary society in which no one ever commits an act of aggression against anyone else. I mean, no. That would be just as utopian as saying that government can work. But when you have freedom, when you have a truly free society, a society that universally embraces freedom, understands what it means, and does not tolerate a single act of aggression against a fellow human being with any excuse whatsoever, you still have the potential for violence. In the moment someone gets drunk and punches somebody in the face, yes, for the person getting punched, it's not exactly a voluntary society. I understand that. The question is, how do we best deal with such bad actors? Can we come together peacefully to deal with that? I would put it to you that it is moral and righteous for me, if I see an injustice, to gather my friends together, strangers, coworkers, colleagues, whoever I can round up, and say, look, we have a potential to stop an injustice. Let us pool our resources. Let us take the risk incumbent with doing violence for righteousness to defend life against an aggressor. Let us do that. Let us step in and preserve the value of someone's life or property. Or perhaps as my acting on my own behalf. Could I hire somebody? Of course I could hire someone and say, please protect me. And certainly that's better than the government alternative that we have today, because if I see an injustice, if I see children starving in the streets, largely because government has destroyed the middle class. If I see victims of war who need humanitarian aid, if I see, that there's someone being beaten up by a man in a costume with a badge on his uniform, then perhaps there is, there's a way that we can deal with this peacefully. We can come together. I can hire somebody. I can convince people. But it is wrong for me in those situations. It is absolutely just as wrong as any of those initial crimes themselves for me to say, oh, I see someone who needs help because their rights are being violated. Let me now go point a gun at everybody else's head here that I can find and take some of their money so I can hire someone else to go protect their rights. Do you see the absurdity in that proposition? Do you see the potential pitfalls with that government-based system? That idea that, yes, we're going to elect somebody, and then they're going to, pass a law, and then they're going to have some money that they've taken from us in taxes, and they're going to hire people to point guns at us if we don't give them more money. You think if you give people that power, you're not going to attract the worst sociopaths in society? This is why government is the institutionalization of all of our worst desires to control and dominate and manipulate others by force. We take all of that good intent. I mean, most human beings are libertarians in their daily lives. I mean, I would highly doubt that anybody who's listening to me right now went out this morning and held someone up at gunpoint to pay for their breakfast. But really, that's the equivalent of what every single person getting any kind of benefit whatsoever from the government who is participating in the process of getting it is doing. Whether you're a voter or a politician or an IRS agent or a cop or a soldier, it doesn't matter. That is the premise of the organization to which you are a party to. And that is why, in contrast to a free society where you have potential violence, when you have a government-based society, you guarantee violence. Yes, that is right. Now, it leads us to the wonderful cliche, if you can't trust people with freedom, how can you trust them with power? But let's dissect that for just a minute. If you can't trust people with freedom, if you think that people are bad and can't handle freedom, how is it that we can put such people in charge of others? Is it really possible then that we are going to find the rare angels in society? That the electoral process is going to produce the best of humanity? Yeah, please. But no, at a more fundamental level here, it really speaks to what is your view on human nature? Are we inherently good, inherently bad? Does it really matter? Because government, to govern others by force, is inherently bad and has predictable violent consequences. So the question you should be asking is not, can people handle freedom, but rather, when will we realize that we can't handle government without the predictable, violent, immoral, anti-freedom consequences? And today is Thursday, April 17th, 2014. Thank you so much for joining us on the Adam vs. the Man podcast, coming at you live Monday through Friday from noon to 2 p.m. at adamversustheman.com/live. We have an awesome show stacked up for you today. In addition to all the stories that we didn't get to yesterday because of our amazing interviews, we've got three wonderful guests. Barry Cooper, who this morning had someone else fake his own death. But it's good to hear that he's better now. He is fully recovered from any potential health pitfalls that may have resulted from a meth heroin overdose that probably never happened in the first place because his Facebook page was hijacked. We have Robert Scott Bell. We are going to be live on his show while doing this show. Yes, that's called a simulcast. I've never done it before, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I don't even know who's going to be interviewing who, but at 1 p.m. we'll be talking to Robert Scott Bell, and at 1:30, the one and only Michael Salvi, Michael Salvi's World, one of our favorite Liberty, Bitcoin, and so many other potential monikers I could add to that from Philadelphia, and a great friend of Adam versus the Man. He has actually been he's here to share with us the results for Weed Week of his 20-year personal test study as a marijuana patient. So far, it's been going very well. He has not died in 20 years smoking marijuana, believe it or not, consistently. Yeah, happy Weed Week, everybody. And if you want to have something with me, perhaps, this Sunday to celebrate 420, we'll be at the Santa Monica Pier on the north side, like where we had the Civil Disobedience Beach Party a couple years ago and last year. And if you'd like to join me, I'll be there around 3:30. Come and show up, have a good time. And, don't do anything I wouldn't do. So, if you want more information about that and the details, it's on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Adam versus the man. You can follow me on Twitter as well, @AdamKokesh, and Instagram, @AdamKokesh. Did you guys hear about Joe Biden's first Instagram selfie? But it wasn't a selfie. So he had a staffer take it probably. I mean, he's been vice president for how long? And he's like just now going, hey, get me on Instagram. And so the first picture they take is his sunglasses sitting on the desk. And it's a cool picture if it was a Ray-Bans ad. And this is what everybody's making fun of him for. And there are like far better things to make fun of Joe Biden for, like probably not knowing what Instagram is in the first place. But he got 16,000 followers within hours for posting what could have passed for a Ray-Bans ad. Yeah. Anyway, if you'd like to sponsor the show, this is only our second week, so we're still looking for sponsors. Please let us know if you want to volunteer helping out either on the editorial side or production or as an affiliate. Let us know. We're also hiring a post-production producer, paying $600 a week. If you'd like to get involved in that, let us know. Apply at adam@adamversustheman.com. Please donate to support the show. Really, that's we're running on the kind contributions of so many listeners who care about contributing to keeping Adam versus the Man on the air. adamversustheman.com/invest. Hope you are enjoying our new little pre-show format, tuning in an hour in advance. You can hear my my favorite music, and we're looking to add more to that. So if you have some suggestions for pre-show music, you can email those to us. But really, the most important thing you can do to support the message of the show is share it with people. The most important thing you can do to advance humanity, the most important thing you can do today to forever alter the destiny of mankind is tell someone about Adam versus the Man. And as always, send your love mail to adam@adamversustheman.com. From the Daily Mail, does Russia spy on its citizens? Edward Snowden puts surprise question to Putin in televised Q&A as leader denies mass surveillance and clear dig at the West. Now, for those of you that don't know, just to catch you up, yes, this is the NSA whistleblower Ed Snowden, still in some form of asylum in Russia. And this is supposedly a dig at the United States, right? But if, and the whole setup, again, really, Russia, if you understand that its economy is only about 1/40th, that's 40th, 40th the size of the United States. And you understand that government is a global racket, that it's got the same power brokers behind most governments in the world. There are competitions within the superclass. It'd be much more accurate to describe Russia as a part of the American empire than as this like competing superpower. And yet they're the ones giving Snowden asylum and taking this big dig at the West. But if you listen to the exactly what Putin said, you realize how ridiculous this whole thing is, obviously. And this was his annual televised Q&A. And you know that this was staged, right? I mean, Putin is a master propagandist. I know, I worked for him very indirectly. But this is maybe not so indirectly. I'll let you look that one up. But this is clearly staged. And he... What did Putin say? This is like, so, as he said, Mr. Snowden, you are a former agent, a spy. I used to be working for an intelligence service. Obviously, Putin, former KGB, largely attributed with his rise to power. We are going to talk one professional language. Now, what is that language? Is it propaganda? Is it statism? We're talking spy versus spy here? Yeah. So we don't want anybody else to understand what we're saying. I'm going to talk to you and to other members of the spy community, and everybody else in the world isn't going to get what we're saying at all. Our intelligence efforts are strictly regulated by our law. Special forces can use this kind of equipment as they intercept phone calls or follow someone online, but you have to get permission to stalk a particular person. We don't have a mass system of such interception, and according to our law, it cannot exist. Of course, we know that criminals and terrorists use technology for their criminal acts, and of course, special services have to use technical means to respond to their crimes, including those of a terrorist nature. But we do not have a mass-scale, uncontrollable effort like that. I hope we don't do that, and we don't have as much money as they have in the United States, and we don't have these technical devices that they have in the United States. Our special services, thank God, are strictly controlled by society and the law and are regulated by the law. Did you hear that? Sounds exactly, minus the Russia versus US parts, exactly what the Obama administration has said about the NSA so far. Yeah, sorry, had to translate for all of those of you who don't speak spy versus spy. From Bloomberg, from New York rather, from Reuters. Bloomberg to spend $50 million on new gun control effort in challenge to NRA. Yeah, I mean, really nothing new about this, just a new influx of cash. Former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg will spend $50 million this year to build a nationwide grassroots network on gun control in a direct challenge to the National Rifle Association. According to the New York Times, the new lobbyist group called Every Town for Gun Safety will encompass other gun control groups funded by Bloomberg, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Now, I'm so glad that we had our producer Anthony Antonello on just a couple days ago with his behind-the-scenes footage of Obama minions talking about their propaganda strategies for gun control. And this is it. It's like, oh, don't say gun control. Oh, don't even say stricter gun regulations. You say stronger. You say every town for gun safety. It's like perfect textbook propaganda. But there's something worse about this story that is not just revealing about the nature of government, but like Bloomberg in particular. And I think it provides Bloomberg provides an interesting case study here because he's a wealthy guy. And what he's doing as mayor is not just for the money. Yes, a corrupt politician, or certainly mayor of New York City, can get lots of money. And who knows, I might be wrong. Maybe behind the scenes, Mayor Bloomberg is making, way more money, or, as mayor, he's able to make more money by threatening, Wall Street banksters with eviction or something like that. I mean, I don't know how the, power of the mayor of New York can be applied for that kind of extortion. But still, for as much money as he has, he's not in it for that. A guy that can drop $50 million for what you would at worst call, from a criminal sense, as a propaganda thing, is getting something else out of this. And I would suggest ego gratification. I think that's a big part of it for a lot of people in his position. They get this satisfaction of being, well, I'm rich. Why do I have to be the rich bankster in the shadows that everybody's ashamed of? Well, no, I can come out and buy myself a public office, and I can, fill myself with a sense of self-importance because people will kiss my ass now. Right? But I think Mayor Bloomberg has something else behind this, because I don't think that, being mayor is just about the money or the power. It could be, I don't know. He could really be that sociopathic. I don't know. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt here, because I think he really believes at least half of his own bullshit. Yeah. Have you ever listened to him talk? And he's got that sort of self-righteousness about him. And the reason that I mention all of this in context of this story is that he recently said, I've earned my place in heaven. Yeah. For using the guns of government to take the guns of peaceful, nonviolent, individual American gun owners. Maybe that's oversimplifying it, but yeah, for that. For fighting for gun control, not for gun safety, not for because now if let's say for a second, his concern was to get into heaven by helping the most people. Is fighting for gun control and spending $50 million on a propaganda effort really that? I mean, do you know what you could do with $50 million? Do you know how many people you could save from starvation? How many lives you could save of people who are desperate for medical treatment? All these. Instead, you're gonna fight this PR battle with $50 million, and that's what's gonna earn you the place in heaven? Okay, so maybe that's not really it. maybe there's a deeper level of self-delusion, but it really doesn't matter if it's Mayor Bloomberg himself or the people that buy this bullshit. Because a common criminal will put a gun to your head, take your wallet, and leave you alone. And he won't pretend that he's doing it for your own good. And you can defend yourself against such a criminal. You can fight them back. You can make it less worthwhile for them to steal from you because they, why does theft happen? Desperation, ambition, whatever it is, that can be satisfied and that violence can be avoided. Or someone who says they're willing to violate your rights by stealing your property can simply be shot. Or if possible, I would prefer stunned or pepper sprayed and have their value of their life preserved, certainly, yes. But a Mayor Bloomberg, with an army of supporters, with an army known as the NYPD behind him, as the righteous moral busybody. No, he will not only steal from you, but he will tell you that it's for your own good and refuse to leave you alone. That is why that mentality, whether it's Mayor Bloomberg or his army of supporters, is even more dangerous than the common criminal. Yes, the uncommon criminal, known as the politician. From Charleston County, South Carolina, Live5News.com, North Charleston man facing federal charges over an 89-cent drink refill. Now, I was not too surprised to hear that this happened at not Virginia, but Veterans Affairs Medical Center in downtown Charleston. And these are facilities patrolled by federal police officers. So they have an officer there. And a hospital spokesperson actually described this as theft of government property. So Lewis, the gentleman Christopher Lewis, who received this $525 ticket, said, "Every time I look at the ticket, it's unbelievable to me. I can't fathom the fact that I made an 89-cent mistake that cost me $525. As I was filling my cup, I turned to walk off, and a fellow grabbed me by the arm and asked me, was I going to pay for that? And I told him I wasn't aware that I had to pay for that." So for that ignorance, for missing a sign, right? He said he tried to pay the 89 cents, but wasn't allowed to. He wasn't given the chance to pay the cashier either. I never had an option to make right what I had done wrong. He was taken to a room, given the ticket, and told not to return to the property. I'm done there at the VA hospital. I'm not allowed to go on the premises anymore. I asked him, can I still work on the job site and just bring my lunch and not go to the cafeteria? And he said he wanted me off the premises. This is a construction worker who is working to build part of a hospital for veterans. And because he missed this, I don't think I even have to explain the absurdity of this anymore, but the story does get better. There was a statement released from the hospital. The Ralph H. Johnson VA Medical Center is fortunate to have a highly trained federal police force to ensure the safety of our patients, visitors, and employees. As federal police, they are responsible for enforcing the law. Today, a federal citation was issued for shoplifting in the VA cafeteria to an individual who stated to VA police that he had not paid for the refills of beverages on multiple occasions, and even though signs are posted in the cafeteria informing patrons refills are not free. Shoplifting is a crime. The dollar amount of the ticket is not determined by the VA as it is a federal citation. The citation may be paid or the recipient may choose to appear in federal court to contest it. This is like, government has turned people into freaking robots. Well, the regulation says we have to do this. Like, literally, just we are reducing our brains. Now, while humanity is being elevated by technology, we are fighting this countervailing force that is government dumbing us down. And I don't just mean through the fluoride in the water and the heavy metals in the food and all of the pollution that it excuses and everything else. But holy crap, it is by its coercion, by its violence, by its creation of systems like this. It is literally turning us into morons who simply go, well, the piece of paper said the amount is this and the law is this, and I don't care if it doesn't make sense and it hurts people and wastes resources. We're just going to do it because we're fucking robots. And it gets better than that. Yes, I know. We've got some more fun stories here, but we're getting to our guests in just a few minutes. So, I don't even know where to go after that. All right, we've got more absurd law enforcement here. From St. Paul, Minnesota, school bus used to crack down on distracted driving. Now, a lot of the arguments that statists raise for the justification of government is that we need government to protect us. We need government to keep us safe from real criminals. And the need to be kept safe is a real one. And the fact that there are real criminals other than government, petty individual criminals, is certainly a real problem. But when you turn to government and say, please keep us safe, please protect us, and I'm not trying to say here that road safety is not a significant issue, but really, would you rather that if you have a limited amount of resources to be spent on public safety, would you rather it protect you from, say, a rapist or a thief or a murderer, or would you rather have it go after people, I don't know, smoking pot and texting while driving? Because there are police departments now where you have laboratories, that's where they test, evidence and stuff like that, where you have rape kits backlogged, and yet they are spending resources on shit like busting people for smoking pot. And now in this case, we have an even more elaborate scheme to crack down on distracted driving, not on safe driving, not people causing accidents. So what they have done here in St. Paul, a pair of Ramsey County Sheriff's deputies started a new crackdown because distracted driving is a growing problem in Minnesota. Anyone who texts, emails, or surfs the internet on a phone while driving is breaking the law. So what they do is they took a school bus and they have officers in the back of the school bus spying on drivers around them on the freeway while they have multiple undercover police vehicles like cruising in this hovering swarm around them so that they can radio to them, hey, blue Prius, texting, pull them over right now. And they do that. Like, this is worse than them spending, as they are in Missouri, $50,000 on LRADs to yell at people through their windshields. The manpower that goes into this to stop people from texting while driving? Yeah, like it's really in the interest of the public safety. So this is the problem when you've turned people into robots, and it's like, well, it's the law, it's on the books. I'm a law enforcement officer. I get evaluated based on how I enforce the law. Well, not on how I perform. And see, this is the fundamental difference here between free market public safety and government law enforcement, is that when you have an officer of public safety accountable to the market, they are not going to be evaluated on how many tickets they can write, on how many people they can prosecute, or on how many people's lives they can ruin with legal procedures and false charges. No, it is going to be based on the actual improvement to the public safety. And compared to, well, we're going to follow the law, we're going to check all the boxes, we're going to do the whims of politicians, sounds like a much better allocation of resources and far better way to serve the public interest and the public safety than turning to government for such a ridiculous racket as we see with this school bus dragnet for distracted driving in Minnesota. Thanks, courtesy of the Ramsey County Sheriff's Department. From the smoking gun, cops, doctor took naked pics of his patients. Now, they kind of buried the lead here. It wasn't just a doctor. It was an Arkansas gynecologist who's 68 years old and facing 5 felony voyeurism charges. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Adam, it's a good thing we have government regulating the medical industry and making sure that doctors are licensed to keep this thing from ever happening. Oh, wait, it happened? Yeah, sorry. And no, this was not an unlicensed doctor doing back alley abortions. This was a licensed, fully practicing, advertised gynecologist who is facing video voyeurism charges after he allegedly used his cell phone to take nude photos of clients during office exams. Police began investigating Paul Becton Jr. earlier this month after a patient told cops that she was concerned that the 68-year-old doctor produced a cellular telephone, took photographs of her pubic region and buttocks during an office visit according to an arrest affidavit. So earlier this month. So it's like, it takes a couple weeks for this to go through if you turn to the police. I mean, if you had a free market system for this, for, approving doctors or for, licensing, well, you have one incident reported and it's over for this dude. But anyway, his website notes that he's practiced for over 30 years and is very knowledgeable in the latest surgical techniques and women's health issues. Armed with a search warrant, Arkansas Police State investigators seized Becton's phone during an April 10 visit to his office in Paragould, a city about 20 miles northeast of Jonesboro. It revealed numerous images of nude females that appear to have been taken in a medical office during medical examinations. They were found in the deleted images within the hard drive of the phone. Investigators also noted that also recovered during the examination were what appear to be photographs of the victim who reported the incident. She subsequently identified 5 nude photographs that were taken without her knowledge or consent. Oh, talk about taking your work home with you. But I guess this guy has a certain enthusiasm for his work that his patients didn't really appreciate. Becton, who maintains a private OBGYN practice at the Arkansas Methodist Medical Center, has been charged with 5 felony voyeurism counts related to the naked images of the women who contacted the police. And he now remains at large, although a bench warrant has been issued. All right. We are now trying to get Barry Cooper on the line here. Apparently, he is not dead. Big relief here at the Adam vs. the Man studios after falling for a little hoax this morning, but it looks like we're not able to connect with him on Skype. So, from the Wall Street Journal, more people pick elimination diets to discover food sensitivities. The fad and science behind not eating entire groups of food for weeks at a time. And I love how the Wall Street Journal is covering this from such a perfectly ignorant mainstream perspective. Oh, it looks like we've got not Barry Cooper, but someone with Barry Cooper with Never Get Busted on the line.
Hi there. Yeah, just 1 second here.
I'm sorry, say again, please.
Sorry, just 1 second. Let me get set up. All righty. Here you go.
All right, thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may have seen Barry Cooper in the pages of Maxim. I know a lot of Adam vs. the Man readers, so yeah, no. Or during one of his many appearances on CNN, Fox News, Spike TV, or seen him starring alongside Woody Harrelson, Susan Sarandon, and Eminem in the drug war documentary, How to Make Money Selling Drugs. He's the cop who turned against the drug war and was made famous for his Never Get Busted DVD series. You can see a lot of his work on YouTube as well. Highly recommended. It teaches citizens how to avoid being arrested for marijuana and really lots of other very valuable lessons for the, how to deal with the police state. He later fled to Brazil when he was a political refugee after his home was raided here for retaliation for his online reality show. And this is really amazing. Cop Busters. Like, you got to go see this. The famous video that led to this, because what he was doing was setting up cops, doing reverse stings, filming the corruption. I mean, talk about guts. So now he's in Mexico, I guess in a sort of self-imposed exile where he operates his humanitarian expert witness firm, NeverGetBusted.com, which has been responsible for the freeing of over 200 drug defendants and prisoners. Barry, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Hey, man, it's fantastic to be back. I'm glad to see you in the free world, Adam. We missed you.
Free-ish. Thank you. And I really appreciated, all of your kind words for me when I was in jail, because, I know that it really was something, I would hope, a cause that's right up your alley, but I certainly failed in not getting busted. So
well, it gave it. Well, in the U.S. now, you're going to get busted, no matter what you do, especially working at the level you're working at. But you being in prison, and a great dear friend of mine, Mark Emery, still in prison. He only has 3 months left out of a 5-year sentence, and that gave me nightmares. Actually, it bothered me to see you guys, locked up. You didn't deserve to be.
Well, I really appreciate that, but I want to hone in on part of what you just said there, that like you can't, when people heard you talking about Never Get Busted, when you came up with that, after you left law enforcement, it was like, yeah, right, how can you never get busted? And yet you have pretty much a perfect success record of keeping your clients out of jail. But are you saying now that you couldn't do that in America? Like you couldn't advertise as Never Get Busted anymore? That we've just come to the point?
Oh, no, we're definitely Never Get Busted, and you can learn tricks that certainly protect yourselves and decrease your chances of being arrested. But even since I left the U.S. 3 years ago, it's gotten worse. Whether you refuse consent or give consent, you go to jail. Whether you're polite or rude, you go to jail. The American police are just out of control. Now, what we're focusing on is still giving our audience up-to-date information on how never to get busted. But if you do get busted, it's usually from a mistake a police officer makes. So I've got a staff of voluntary lawyers and myself that reviews evidence. And this expert witnessing business has really taken off. I've developed a strategy and a method that over the last 6 or 7 years that works. In fact, it's responsible for the release of over 200 prisoners and defendants just in the last few years that I've developed this system. It's a system that I use of manipulating the courts, teaching defendants how to lie properly in court. I explain to them how to manipulate their defense lawyers that are often
hold
on the
Let
side
me
of
let
the
me jump in here for a
prosecutors.
second. Let me jump in for a second. I want to address two things. First of all, I can put you out of business right away because the answer to how to never get busted is move to Mexico, carry $20 in your pocket to bribe the police anytime they bug you about it, right? I mean, you've perfected this, never get busted. But seriously, to address this one specific thing you said here, we're very much against deception and lying in any form as a moral violation. But I want to point out that there is a clear caveat to that. If someone has a gun to your head, and if you say the truth, they're going to shoot you in the head, it's okay to lie. When it is to prevent what is clearly categorically a far greater crime, or to lie, just like you can use violence or force in self-defense, lying in self-defense is absolutely righteous and justified. And the drug war is a gun to the head of everybody who is acting peacefully, asserting their right to put what they want in their own body. So please.
Well, of course we should lie for self-defense. If a robber comes to the door and I answer it and they ask if my family's home, I'm going to lie. If I've got 50 pounds of marijuana in the trunk of my car and a cop asks me if I have any marijuana, I'm probably going to say no. Well, of course we lie for self-defense, and the courts lie every day. In fact, the U.S. courts, it's a common saying, it's not who deserves to win, it's who can lie the best in court that day. But I've come up with this system, and we're producing volume 3. We're shooting it here in Mazatlan, Mexico in May, and it details this system of how to free yourself from the tragedy of the U.S. court system. It's horrible, and it is using techniques, like I said, that nobody else has developed, and I've got a system and it's working.
So for people just in general, lifestyle, trying to, figure out how to moderate or lessen their risk, what advice do you have in order to not just not get busted or in order not just to deal with it once you're already, once they've already got their hooks into you, but for, general avoidance in the United States right now, what's your advice for someone who's maybe not as lucky as I am to live in California or, Washington State or Colorado, where cops really just don't bother to deal with individual smokers?
Well, the tips I told 7 years ago on Volume 1 and Volume 2, by the way, we're giving Volume 3 away as a humanitarian effort. I'm not going to sell it like I sold the other two. We have all of our stuff free now online, but never carry more than you can eat. If you're still in a jurisdiction where they're arresting for pot, only carry 1 or 2 joints. Keep a glass of water nearby. If the police start pulling you over, eat them and swallow it real quick. It's not illegal to smell like marijuana. It's just illegal to possess it.
Not in your body, but outside your body. You possess it inside your body, that's legal. You possess it outside your body, that's illegal. Right.
Well, they're actually making it possessing inside of your body now illegal in Colorado and Washington with the driving while drugged laws. And I knew when they legalized in Washington and Colorado that they were just going to turn the small possession cases into drugged driving cases. So they're still ramping up arrests.
Right, and it's really interesting to see how Colorado has become a propaganda battlefield, for people who are saying, oh, marijuana is going to make people crazy and drive dangerously and go kill people and commit suicide. And like today, we saw the headline that a guy who ate a bunch of pot cookies ended up committing suicide, but we never hear, the guy who committed suicide on alcohol, having it blamed on that, of course. And there's this real new propaganda battlefield developing. But what's your take on driving on marijuana as compared to alcohol?
Oh, well, of course there are people that can drive safe marijuana. Now, I haven't driven a car in 3 years by choice. Candy and I sold all of our stuff and moved to South America. Now we're in Mexico. But when I drove in the United States, I didn't drive unless I was stoned. I could drive much better stoned. That traffic in the U.S. and all the bullies and road rage, I just couldn't get through it unless I was stoned. And I'm telling you, I'm a better driver when I'm stoned. The argument is impairment.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. And although marijuana will impair a new user, there's no question an experienced marijuana user can drive just as safe, if not safer, than somebody that's even sober.
Right.
And of course they can drive safer.
And we don't have a
than
system
somebody
here.
drinking alcohol.
Right.
Because alcohol, I don't care how good you are on that. If you drink and drive long enough, you're going to wreck into somebody. So,
Right now, and if we had a fair system on the streets here in the United States, it would be based on some objective standard of impairment, and your body chemistry would be completely your own business, whether it's alcohol or pot or heroin. It's can you do X, Y, and Z physically to drive safely? But Barry, I want to ask you about the bigger dynamics that we're seeing here in the United States, because you really are, as a not just someone who's doing this behind the scenes, trying to help people out. Like there are a lot of lawyers who specialize in these cases and things like that. You're also an activist. I mean, you're very much out there in the public. You're an incredible advocate. You make lots of videos and not just the practical ones, but talking about the political issues. We see ourselves right now in the United States at kind of a crossroads where we are at this point, as we were talking about earlier, where it's impossible to avoid getting busted if you're just sitting doing the normal things that an American does, even doing your best, doing your absolute best to avoid breaking the law. You're probably committing 3 felonies a day, and you are subject to even random mistaken arrest by just the out-of-control police state of cops looking for excuses to bust people. And at the same time, we see, well, I'd like to say that's kind of just a product of government continuing its momentum, getting out of control, the not just the police state, but the militarization of it, all the money in DC going through all the various suppliers, military gear going to local police forces. But then countervailing to that, we are coming to the end of the drug war. I mean, really, the stoners are winning. This is like holy crap. Yeah, this is. I think maybe a few years ago we were at the beginning of the end, and now with recreational legalization, at least in Colorado and Washington State, and in California, complete separation from enforcement, at least at the individual level. Cops don't go after people just because they smell like weed anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Here's what's happening. The world is positioning themselves for the legalization of marijuana. Now, I think it's going to take the legalization of cocaine and heroin, a few more years to catch up. But within 2 years, and I predicted 3 years ago that in 5 years it would be totally legal. So I got lucky on that prediction, I think, just following certain trends. But, do what, babe? Okay. Adam, are you able to hear me? They're telling me my audio's bad.
We're getting a little static on the line. Is your connection all right?
Yeah, how about now?
Nah, it's still a little staticky, but please finish your point and tell us about what you're up to now.
This is important. The cartels in Mexico are like governments. They're a legitimate government. They're not what they've been portrayed through U.S. propaganda. They are violent, but no more violent than the DEA. The DEA is the biggest cartel. They smuggle guns, money, and drugs just like the cartels. They murder and do all the same things just like the cartels, but actually the cartels have grown so strong now, they are a type of legitimate government here in Mexico.
Well, hold on. They're just on a moral basis, they're far more legitimate than the DEA because the cartels get their money from selling people products that they want to consume. The DEA gets all of their money by stealing it through taxation.
Well, good point. Very good point. So you have the former president of Mexico and a Microsoft billionaire that announced they're opening the first marijuana chain in the U.S., and they've actually been going around acquisitioning these mom-and-pop marijuana shops. Well, former presidents and billionaires do not announce that unless they know something's about to take place, and what's taking place is the cartels actually have a voice in the UN. It's a secret voice, but they have it, and what they're trying to do is convert the cartels over to legal operations to legally import the marijuana and later cocaine and things of that nature into the United States. But they're starting with marijuana. I've often said, and I've always said, and I still believe this, marijuana will be completely legal the day the people who are making the billions can continue making the billions off the illegal marijuana growth, and that's the U.S. government who's making billions illegally now. Soon they'll be able to assume the tax revenue from legal marijuana. The cartels who are making billions, who are still in power, you can't just knock them out of power. So we're going to turn them into the legal growers, and pretty soon you're going to be seeing it imported into the U.S., no different than any other product.
Outstanding. Barry Cooper, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back on to get into this more. I'd like to talk more about the cartels and especially how the drug war coming to an end and the change in the marijuana demand here in the United States is affecting what's going on in Mexico. And it's really exciting to have yourself as a former law enforcement officer and an expert on a lot of these issues on the ground in Mexico. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Barry Cooper, nevergetbusted.com. All right, so we're going to have our next guest on here in just about 15 minutes. We're going to go live simulcast with Robert Scott Bell. But until then, let's get back to this Wall Street Journal story, because this is, a lot of libertarians, when you wake up to the nature of government and you realize it's, confluence with the every major successful corporatist industry in the United States, and you start to question the, what government is telling you, what corporations are telling you about what's safe to eat. So the story comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. More people pick elimination diets to discover food sensitivities. The fad and science behind not eating entire food groups for weeks at a time. You just love hearing them come at it from this mainstream angle. Like, geez, people have never decided to just not eat something. What is this new fad? We call it the elimination diet. Oh, we've never heard of that before. It must be people have just for millennia just eaten whatever was in front of them without thinking twice about it. And now they're doing this crazy elimination diet food. All right, so people are nixing various foods from their diets, often without consulting a doctor. You hear the mainstream perspective here? How could you possibly change your diet? How could you not eat McDonald's 3 times a day without talking to a doctor first to make sure that what you're doing is safe and good for you? Yeah. Okay. Is there actually any medical evidence behind it? Like, really, the Wall Street Journal is asking this question. Is there any medical evidence behind deciding to not eat something for a while if in case I'm glad they're covering this. It's so funny to hear people who have no perspective talking about such a fundamental issue. The adage that you are what you eat doesn't quite ring true for some people. A growing group is swayed by the idea you are what you don't eat. Really? Like, I don't eat shellfish because I'm allergic to it. Or I don't eat, crap because it makes me sick. Or I don't eat McDonald's because it's full of shit. I mean, like, this is a new fad? Like, did I accidentally invent this 20 years ago? Was I? Oh my gosh, Adam Kokesh, way ahead of his time with the elimination diet fad. Yeah, I was not eating certain foods before it was cool. Okay, people? Elimination diets, which call for cutting out a certain food or group of foods, are having a moment. When a boy elimination diet and a girl elimination diet get together and cut out certain foods, they might be having a moment. People often start the diets in an effort to cure a symptom that doesn't necessarily seem worth seeing a doctor about. Headaches, skin irritation, joint pain, digestive problems, or just feeling tired. Maybe cutting out certain foods will help. They think weight loss often isn't the primary motivation. Eating in this manner is different than elimination diets intended to detect sometimes immediate and life-threatening allergic reactions, often done under close supervision of a doctor. The idea behind these elimination diets is to help people identify more subtle, gradual reactions to common food groups such as dairy, soy, nuts, eggs, gluten, sugar, and alcohol. They completely avoid those foods for a few weeks. Later, each food is added back one by one to test the body's response. Now, I'll tell you, just as a health and fitness enthusiast myself, which really should be every human being, it's at least to some extent, right? If you care about if you care enough to take the next breath, you should probably care enough to take care of the body that is doing it. So, this idea you're going to eliminate food, if you're getting headaches, or just like if you're, it's really speaks to, a counter sentiment. And I don't mean to dismiss the substance of this article, because it's awesome. It really is that people are doing it. They're talking about it this way, and that it's become a thing. It's having a moment. Very quiet. personal moment. Because when you're, tailoring your diet to your own needs, this is exactly what you're doing. If you're at all conscious about what you eat. But if you want to really figure out how certain foods affect you, you got to take this basic scientific approach. And you don't need a doctor to do it, to think, well, I'm going to perform an experiment on myself. And it's not a perfect experiment, obviously, if you have, lots of other conflating factors. But having a doctor is not going to take those out for you. So a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I have headaches. What am I going to do? Oh, I know. I'm going to I'll pop some pills. I'll take some Tylenol. And it's sort of like, maybe you're getting headaches because you're freaking addicted to caffeine. As according to some studies, 90% of Americans are to one degree or another. Yes, caffeine is a drug. So let's see, we're taking one drug to enhance performance and has a side effect of headaches. So we take another drug, Tylenol or Advil or ibuprofen or whatever, and we do that. Now we've got like this uppers and downers thing going on. When instead you could just eliminate the caffeine and maybe sleep better or eat other foods that give you more energy. If you're taking caffeine, doing caffeine, taking caffeine. I mean, it's not just drinking coffee. Like let's get rid of these euphemisms, right? Like, oh, I don't do drugs, I just drink. Oh, go fuck yourself. And it's funny because I've seen this a lot online, and every time I see a woman's profile that says like drinks moderately, drugs never, I'm like, okay, sure. But there's a very practical reason to do this, and it gets to even deeper problems. I mean, if you're fat, maybe if you eliminate one thing from your diet, it makes it easier to lose weight. It could be that if you're getting diabetic or kidney failure or some other chronic disease, it's because you didn't do this early enough, and instead you started taking Tylenol to counter the caffeine headaches, or you started taking Alka-Seltzer to calm your stomach, when instead you could have changed your diet and not had all of these long-term health consequences building up. So there is little science to prove specific cause and effect behind this style of elimination diet and an improvement in symptoms, many doctors say. Oh yes, because you really need the medical establishment to figure this one out. Yet lots of people report feeling significantly better. Is that because, quote, they are eating healthier, or because, say, wheat was taken away? Says Linda Lee, director of Johns Hopkins Integrative Medicine and Digestive Center. And by the way, there are two sort of really huge food distortions in America right now in terms of what we should be eating that are caused by government, that elimination diets can go a long ways at addressing. And they are grains in general and high fructose corn syrup, or corn syrup in general. And with high fructose corn syrup, it's really obvious, right? The government has been subsidizing the corn industry because presidential primaries are held in Iowa. Yeah, it all goes back to that stupid quirk of our wonderful democratic system. And so farm subsidies go to Iowa where there's corn, you get more corn. You have a surplus of corn on the market, so corn prices go down. What do you do with it? Well, you can convert it to syrup and you can put it in foods. And if you go to the grocery store and read the ingredients list on most processed foods, it's like they've all got some corn derivatives. You wonder why? That's why. Maybe eating tons of corn every day, which, by the way, is usually GMO in America and highly processed, not to mention when it's processed into syrup or something else that's just another food additive. But it's a food that doesn't really simulate, anything that exists in nature. Yes, I know there's some wild corn, as Native Americans originally farmed and was, a totally different, set of molecules that you were consuming with that. But now the corn that we get for all these food additives is GMO. It's highly processed, and nutritionally, it's not what your body is designed to take in. The second thing is grains. If you think about the food pyramid, now right now the food pyramid is like a line of wedges. It's not exactly the building blocks thing that we got when we were kids. I'm dating myself, having turned 30 for the third time recently. But when you have this the old, if you look at the old food pyramid, the base of it is grains. And you think back, and this is a big thing for libertarians, having discovered, learned how to think objectively, rationally, and then you go, well, what was my body designed to eat? What did we evolve to eat? Human beings in a state of nature were not eating a lot of grains, and while the development of agriculture was great for human health overall and having a consistent food supply, the processing of that and eating things that are further away from what we were naturally designed to eat takes us away from our optimal health, and experimenting with our diets can solve a lot of that. And so now it's like this big deal. Oh my God, all of a sudden we're discovering in America that, gluten intolerance and intolerance to this chemical in wheat is causing people all sorts of health problems. And so, oh my gosh, now people are trying these elimination diets and it works. But what's really funny is seeing that there are people who go, oh my gosh, I'm allergic to gluten. How do I get bread without the wheat? And they come up with all of these crazy different like soy and whatever the crap other things to simulate that. It's like, no, just don't eat what your body wasn't designed to, and experiment with your diet to find out what works for you and what makes you feel good. Still, there is little harm in cutting out a food group for a limited time if people aren't at risk of poor nutrition, don't begin to develop a fear of food, and don't have a history of eating disorders, which restrictive diets can trigger, say most doctors. Yeah, compare that to the consequences of eating the average mainstream American diet and being part of the most obese country on the planet, and see if see if that's better for your health. No, ignore the doctors. Do what feels right for yourself. So we have a stunning story from the Daily Mail. Is this brazen meeting of hundreds of Al-Qaeda leaders a sign they are planning a new round of terrorist attacks? Video filmed hundreds of Al-Qaeda members meeting in Yemen in March. Crown Prince of AQAP seen speaking of removing America. Oh my God, they want to remove America! Yeah, from their own countries. Shot during celebration of a mass breakout from a Yemeni prison. A Yemeni faction of Al-Qaeda may be planning on attacking Western targets, including the United States, a recent video indicates. Now, when they say the United States, this is where you really have to translate this propaganda. Because these people aren't saying, or when they say let's attack the United States, they mean something very specific, and they know what they're talking about. When the Daily Mail says they're going to attack the United States as a mainstream propaganda outlet, what are they doing? They're saying, they're trying to get you to think, oh no, America, that's me. I'm an American. I have too low of a self-esteem to form a fully comprehensive, strong psychological identity as an independent human being. I must rely on nationalism and statism. I'm an American, goddammit! Yes, so when they say America, they want you to think, oh, yeah, that's me. But no. What do they mean? They mean the American government forces that are fucking with their countries. Yeah, kind of a different definition, right? The things that you as an average American probably aren't even paying attention to. The video allegedly shows a gathering of hundreds of Al-Qaeda members filmed during a celebration of a mass jailbreak of fighters in Sana'a, Yemen. During the 15-minute clip, which was reportedly shot last month and just emerged, the leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula speaks of removing America. The video was posted on several YouTube channels, including terrorism and political violence watchdog TRAC, Terrorism Research and Analysis Consortium, and is dated March 2014. By the way, I think the Terrorism Research and Analysis Consortium probably, needs to direct some more of their effort towards the Obama administration. It shows masked men waving Al-Qaeda's black flag and celebrating the arrival of members who are freed from the main prison in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. As Al-Wuhaishi said, we have to remember that we are always fighting the biggest enemy. We have to remove the cross and the bearer of the cross, America. So what do you think if you're living in a country and another country invades and everybody, the president of that country said it was God's will. God told him to invade your country. Think that might bug you a little bit? Maybe just a little bit. Might piss you off, get under your skin. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what George Bush said. Yeah, God told him to invade the Middle East. We have to remember that we are always fighting the biggest enemy. And it is from their perspective. It is the American empire. This is the pushback. When I say, from my experience in Iraq, we were making enemies faster than we can kill them, this is what we're talking about. But it's worse than that. And we see that this is the deliberate creation of blowback now. It's not like, oh yeah, we need to eliminate enemies and eliminate terrorism. No, because the more terrorists the government creates, the more excuses it has to send money or send people overseas and spend money for the military-industrial complex. So they call this a meeting of the top brass of Al-Qaeda. Now, top brass, I mean, just again, the language, top brass is a traditional mainstream, Western military term, brass, officer. So the top brass. We're talking about the comparison of an institution that's like a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people to the United States military of a couple million strong. So yeah, it's a little funny. It's like calling your kid's treehouse, global military headquarters. It's just, that's the scale of exaggeration we're talking about here. So, although the authenticity of the video has not yet been independently verified, U.S. officials told CNN they believe it to be real. Security experts have criticized American intelligence for allowing such a meeting to take place without their knowledge. Now, this is really interesting, because do you have any idea how much money is spent on fighting terrorism and the American security and intelligence apparatus? And they allowed this to take place without their knowledge. First of all, are you going to stop it? Are you going to stop? Do people in other countries not have the rights supposedly protected by the Bill of Rights? Freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. I mean, that's all this is, right? But without their knowledge, I mean, for all the billions of dollars that are spent on surveillance by the United States government, they couldn't even tell that this meeting was happening until after the fact, apparently. But what are they going to do? They're not going to say, oh, you know what, maybe the system that's making us all rich isn't really working, maybe it's not effective. Maybe we should consider something else. No, they're going to say, oh, well, if we just had some more money, let's go bribe Congress and get it. That's how this all works out. And then you see the point behind all of this. As Peter Bergen, CNN national security analyst, said, which is another word for government propagandist, the U.S. intelligence community should be surprised that such a large group of al-Qaeda assembled together, including the leadership, and somehow they didn't notice. And they didn't drone bomb the shit out of them. I mean, they're killing kids with drone strikes, but no, the leaders are meeting right there. You can't kill them? No. And you have to wonder, why? Why would they do this? Because it's a racket. It's not protection services. It's a protection racket. If they took out all of the leadership with the drone strike, they wouldn't have an excuse to keep spending millions of dollars on Hellfire missiles shot from Predator drones. All right, we're very excited now for our next guest. Can we get with? No, we're getting Robert Scott Bell next. At 1:00. Let's see. Got to get him up on Skype because he is live on the air himself. Actually, you know what? It's 1:05 exactly. We're supposed to dial in for Robert Scott Bell. So, but let's get that queued up and ready to go, and we'll introduce Mr. Bell here. Anyway, there were a couple more things from this last story. Formed in 2009, Al-Qaeda, AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Gotta know that one now. Has attacked military targets, tourists, and diplomats in Yemen and taken over territory for long periods. U.S. drone attacks have killed several suspected AQAP figures, including Anwar al-Awlaki, a U.S.-born Islamist cleric accused of links to a plot to bomb a Detroit-bound airliner in 2009 and U.S. cargo planes in 2010. Yeah, do we have to remind you about about Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen who was killed for suspected speech crimes? Yeah. They'd rather kill random American citizens, which happens every day in the United States. You're 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than a terrorist, than actually take out Al-Qaeda, because taking out Al-Qaeda would kind of ruin the racket. Al-Qaeda will gain strength as there continues to be division and weakness in security performance, said Ali al-Sarari, political advisor to Prime Minister Mohammed Salam Basindwa. The last appearance, the video, shows that Yemen is confronting a dangerous challenge, and if the security performance continues in this manner, then Yemen will face an even bigger challenge, even bigger failure than what it has faced in the past. So, we're going to bring Robert Scott Bell on here in just a couple minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes! This is like... It's like docking space stations, right? And just got to line up just perfectly. It's 1:05, and if we don't call each other at the exact time, the streams cross and the whole internet explodes.
What's up with all these guests from Mexico?
What's up with all these guests from Mexico? It's Marijuana Week. So we're going to be at the Santa Monica Pier on Sunday. Thanks for reminding me. But yeah, no, we call for marijuana themed guests, and they're all Americans living in Mexico. Jesse Ventura, Jeff Berwick, Barry Cooper. I think we have a couple. Do we have anybody else from Mexico for this week? Anyway, I should introduce Mr. Bell. And I don't know who's going to interview who, so this could be really interesting. 6 days a week, Robert Scott Bell empowers his listeners with healing principles that can aid in physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, economic, and yes, even political healing. Is the only thing better than sexual healing. Robert hosts the fastest 2 hours of healing information on radio, dealing with everyday health issues from the perspective of alternative/holistic healthcare. He tackles the tough issues and shows no fear when confronting government and corporate bullies who would stand in the way of health freedom. So really exciting to have a chance to talk to him as we come to the end of the drug war. We'll see. He is actually live doing terrestrial radio right now. So we'll see if we can pull off this very delicate podcast radio maneuver. This is like old media meets new media. Fight to the death. Now, go. No? All right. We're going to have a fun conversation, but this is cool. We are actually going to be on the radio on Genesis Communications Network. And I want to, let's see, we got to plug Robert Bell's website here because it's not on the calendar. But he didn't answer the first call. Still 104. Still 104. Still 104. T-minus 60 seconds. RobertScottBell.com. The power to heal is yours. And he is, according to this, the voice of health, freedom, and healing liberty. So we're going to be talking to him about cannabis and some other interesting treatments now and the relevance of this to the end of the war on drugs. But he has got some interesting stories on his website on top. Cannabis cures, CBD for seizure disorders, PTSD, and we'll see what we can do here. It is 105. Call failed again. Uh-oh. You want to try the other one? See if it's just in case.
Isn't that Mike?
Huh?
Isn't that Mike Salvi?
No. Jeffrey, do you need glasses? Binoculars to read the screen from there? Can we change the font size in Skype? That would actually be kind of helpful. Re-engineer the space station over here. All right.
All right, let's check your levels.
Mr. Bell, can you hear me?
Preferences here. Bringing you up. Talk to me, Adam.
Hey, outstanding. Welcome to Adam versus the Man.
Thanks. We're just about to go live here on this end, so bear with me as they play the introductory music. I don't think you'll be able to hear it, but really great to connect with you, Adam.
It looks like we've done it. We've docked the space stations.
Some cannabis cures and different things, and right now it's blasting in my ears. So you keep talking, and I'll join you in just a moment.
All right. Well, on Robert Scott Bell's show today, he's covering cannabis cures, CBD for seizure disorders. We're gonna. I guess he was covering that earlier, but I'm happy to get into this with him, and we'll see who's interviewing who. But this is going to be a lot of fun. It looks like we are connected. We are on Skype. Mr. Bell is in his studio, and he is waiting to go live with his own show after a commercial break. Yeah, terrestrial radio. Sorry, you got to do 6 minutes at the top of every hour. But this is going to be a really fun experiment, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I think the internet's going to explode probably about halfway through. Actually, given the fact that it's Time Warner that does our internet, that really would not surprise me at all. But
all right, we're in. We're live. We are doing the simulcast. It's actually happening. I've got Adam Kokesh on the other line here. And Adam, talk to me because we want to make sure we got a level coming through this from Adam versus the Man right out to the Robert Scott Bell Show audience.
Yes, the space station has docked with the lander, and we are in stable orbit. You're listening to Adam versus the Man, coming to you from adamversustheman.com/live, joined simulcast with Mr. Robert Scott Bell on terrestrial radio. Old media meets new media.
This is great. Very exciting, Adam, to finally connect with you on the air. We haven't ever done a simulcast like this. It looks like I got 2 thumbs up from the board op. You're coming through loud and clear. And like I said, followed you as long as we've been involved in this, broadcasting Healing Liberty since 1999. And then you came on, and I've admired what you've stood for and the fact that you've got an incredible amount of courage to live what you believe. And sometimes suffer some consequences because of it. But I know you're a freedom guy, and that's why we are together today.
Well, likewise, and I really appreciate your voice in the movement. Everything that you've done to hold down your corner of it, and health freedom, especially right now, is very important. But I don't know who's going to interview who here, but I think we've got plenty of juicy topics. And you know, it's marijuana week. 420 is this Sunday. Stoners have been planning for this. for, I don't know, probably a couple of minutes. But we've got an event coming up this Sunday, and we've had a lot of guests on this theme. But it's important to talk about the serious side of this as well, in terms of the medical benefits and all the ways that people are waking up to that, and how that relates to where we are now historically in what I would describe as the middle of the end of the drug war. Maybe the beginning of the end was the first wave of medical marijuana states. Now, like, we're at recreational, and in a lot of places, just the enforcement mechanism has been separated from individual marijuana smokers, and that means individual patients. That means people that want to experiment. That means parents whose kids are having seizures, and the mainstream medical industry can't do anything for them, and they've seen the cures online. We have the internet. People are doing this research for themselves. So, I mean, how do you see that interplay? And for your show and for your audience, how relevant is the fundamental medical education to that bigger political dynamic?
Well, we've been spotlighting and highlighting a lot of these families, these super moms, super dads, or Canna moms and Canna dads, as we call them now, who have uncovered, because the medical community, completely devoid of any knowledge of botanical medicine, even though many of their medicines are derived from botanicals, but synthetically isolated and patented and becoming very toxic in the process. And in fact, just last hour, the listeners here heard that for Adam versus the Man listeners, we just highlighted another dad, Chris Snyder, who's, I believe, retired from the Navy, and he has a child, 15, 16 months old now, with dramatic seizure disorders, kind of similar to what those who watched the weed episodes on that Sanjay Gupta on CNN was revealing. And they found out about the Charlotte's Web after having been through regular medicine, steroid hormones that are very dangerous and toxic. They couldn't continue. And they started utilizing the CBD-rich industrialized hemp oil that is not derived with a THC basis, so technically legal in all 50 states already.
Right. Hold on. You point out a really interesting distinction. I just want to make sure we're clear on this, or at least emphasize this. But you're saying that there are lots of ways to isolate various elements of marijuana from the raw plant. You can get CBDs out of it, you can get THC, you can isolate specific natural compounds, and you can get oils, and you can create different delivery systems that, if you want to avoid any kind of intoxicating effect or psychological effect, you can almost perfectly avoid. But when you try to do that chemically, as opposed to, and I don't mean chemical versus non-chemical, because a lot of when you're separating the oils, it's a chemical process, yes. Sure. But like synthetic processes, the pharmaceutical patented-based processes, you have all of the problems that you get with pharmaceuticals, as opposed to natural derivatives that in many cases with marijuana are way more effective and safer, correct?
Yeah, and to Sanjay Gupta's credit, he actually acknowledged that you can't synthesize this. There are too many compounds, and the research is showing that it must be delivered in this whole form. But what's interesting, the distinction that is not being made, and wasn't even made on Sanjay Gupta's CNN specials, is that the Charlotte's Web is actually made from industrial hemp, and not, let's say, that marijuana, that certain species that's considered marijuana with THC. And technically, there are forms of this that can be available to you right now in all 50 states, and that's what I've been finding. These parents that have found the access to this point without any congressional shifts, changes in the state law, that they're getting the benefits. And this little child, Donovan, who's 16 months now, 0 seizure activity, when before it was beyond hundreds. They couldn't count how many seizures this kid was having every day. So my message is, we can't wait. Obviously, I want to see the legislation changed everywhere, but the reality is we need this medicinal support everywhere right now, and there is a way, although it's not going to direct you yet to the THC side of things for those that need that, but the CBD is proving very, very profoundly beneficial for so many cases.
Well, what's crazy is just how the internet has so fundamentally changed this, and this is one of those clear cases where you go, if it wasn't for the internet, we'd still be really screwed here, because you have one parent that has the guts to say, maybe the first one, you have to experiment on a child. If you want to heal children, at some point, you have to actually put those things into practice. You have to say, what is the actual effect that this is going to have on a child? And yes, it takes a brave parent who knows what they're doing to say, I got to try this. And if that happened, 30 years ago, even 10, 20 years ago, you'd never see it on the internet. First of all, you wouldn't, even if someone could post it anonymously, like the technology just wasn't there. And so the drug war worked. When the government said this has no medical value, there was no way to question that. And now it's undeniable. And you have to, and now you have parents outraged going, how the hell did you keep this from my kids for so long? And what kills me and thinking about this is how many parents have kids now that are like, I don't know, 15, 20 years old, somewhere in there, that have been, dealing with this their entire lives, that have been, treating seizures through, mainstream medicine and going, and now they have kids that are 18 or that are physically full grown, that are developmentally stunted, whose bodies have not developed and brains have not developed properly because this treatment was kept from them by government. I mean, there's got to be just an incredible outrage there. But now from parents that are going, no, my kid right now needs this. How is that being politically manifest? Or is it?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting challenge because we've also interviewed some parents that have utilized the legal form and Child Protective Services. Somebody tips them off. A doctor doesn't like what they're doing. Maybe they're diminishing certain drugs or eliminating them altogether. And because of that, the CPS coming in to try and take the children away for doing something perfectly lawful and legal right now. So it's a dilemma for those who are genuinely fearful and with good reason. And then there are other families, parents that are, damn the torpedoes, we've got to do this. My child is much too important than the fear that would overwhelm me in this case. But the politics are changing very rapidly. You're right, we're in the middle of the end of the drug war. They've already lost the drug war. It's just a matter for them to realize it. This is how fast this is transforming now. And it's for the good because ultimately it'll shake up the medical establishment, the medical monopoly, as they're acknowledging scientific evidence showing anti-cancer properties of the cannabis family of compounds, and again, all together, the different strains available. So there's a lot of wondrous things that are going to happen that will impact on the medical community positively, even if some of them are going kicking and screaming. But yes, there's still a lot that we have to deal with in terms of the law enforcement attacking these families through Child Protective Services that are protecting the interest of hospitals and doctors and the pharmaceutical industry more than the families or the children themselves.
Now, there are a bunch of very specific diseases that are relatively rare. Children having seizures is not a common thing, although you might think, with autism rates going up, we're going to see more of some of these diseases that are products of who knows what, of what contamination in modern life or in our food or lifestyle problems that really are the result of, corporatism, as a matter of government policy and pollution and food processing and big pharma and so on and so forth. But can you even rattle off the top of your head, what are all of the potential things that people should be aware of? Like, was in the sense that, we know, well, aspirin is good for, blood pressure and headaches. Okay. So, what's that common list that, eventually every American or every human being really needs to know about marijuana?
Well, I think we've only scratched the surface in terms of medical or scientific validation, and I don't wait for that because we know clinically things are happening. They're real, they're right before our eyes. But there are, benefits to the literature that is published on this because hopefully we're going to meet a researcher from Israel this weekend at the Cannabis Cup in Denver, where we'll be broadcasting, that is probably more studied on this than anybody on the planet. But I think the key areas, including cancer, which is huge, brain cancer, tumors, bone cancers, you have the issue of anxiety, PTSD, one of the hugest issues for me that we've been promoting as well, its use to get away from SSRI drugs, anti-anxiety medicines.
Absolutely.
Of course, that threatens a big industry. I think pain management is another huge, huge area because it's non-addictive. It's not toxic to the liver like all the pain drugs that are out there and available. And even we're going to cover this hour story about a reduction of alcohol dependence addiction via the use of medical cannabis. And we cover a lot of that in this. I don't know if you know, I've got a new book out called Unlock the Power to Heal. You see it right there.
Yep, absolutely.
And this will go into it. We have a whole chapter on the medical uses of cannabis, as well as the history as to how and why it was made illegal, not because it got people high. That was the furthest thing from their concern. but there were a whole lot of other factors involved in this.
Now, I just want to put out a caveat for my audience, because we have a lot of veterans and active duty service members that listen to Adam versus the Man, and I've talked about this before with my experience with PTSD, and you say as an alternative to SSRIs, that's selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the dangerous chemicals like Prozac that have suicide as a side effect. And when I went to the VA and told them I was having trouble sleeping, I got 5 prescriptions, 3 of which had suicide as a side effect.
Adam, stand by. I got to take us to break, and we'll continue during the commercial break with Adam versus the Man. Adam Kokesh, he's interviewing me. I'm interviewing him. We're together. It's awesome. And we got a lot more healing to go. Check it all out. RobertScottBell.com. Back with Adam after this.
And if you're listening online at adamversustheman.com/live, we just keep rolling right on through the commercial breaks. And, you know, for what I was saying about SSRIs and marijuana, and like, I think you were very, very correct to point out, it's a matter of symptomatic treatment. It's not the cure. And I think this is, I have to put this out every time it comes up, because mental health is such an even broader overarching issue than the drug war. And that is that a lot of those things are symptomatic controls. And if you're dealing with PTSD and you can't sleep, or you're enraged all the time, yes, you can take a pill or smoke some weed or whatever it is that works for that symptomatic treatment. But there's a much deeper disease that is a matter of psychological therapy. That is a matter of talk therapy, about reorganizing your thought patterns that you don't need drugs for unless you need them to control your symptoms in order to go through that deeper psychological process. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, because we're not saying that for mental health that any kind of chemical really, you know, very, very rarely can you say for any kind of mental health disorder that a chemical is a cure.
Yeah. In fact, you know, Adam, I agree with you 100%. And, you know, the distinction between the use of medical cannabis in this case versus the SSRIs is that those SSRIs tend to drug you out of life itself. I mean, you completely disconnect.
Yeah. And marijuana doesn't. Marijuana doesn't. Stoners at very worst are, you know, a little slow, a little hungry, a little sleepy, but, you know, they're not disengaged. Whereas you see someone who's like stoned on pharmaceutical painkillers, they are stoned. They are out of it. They are like, they are disconnected. I think it's very, very good to point out. Are we ready to come back from break yet? How much time you got there?
It's Terry. I'll let you know when I got to take us back in.
All right.
But, we're doing great. So far, so good. The first simulcast ever on the Robert Scott Bell Show with Adam versus the Man. How cool is this?
Excellent, excellent. So in terms of these other things that people need to be aware of with marijuana, I mean, they're so widespread, they're so far-reaching. Do you think we're going to get to the point, and maybe this is just my fantasy, but you know how it's kind of true now that that every American household has a bottle of Tylenol or Advil or aspirin, you know, maybe in a first aid kit or in a bathroom or in the kitchen, that, you know, in maybe 5-10 years, it's going to be like that with cannabis, that it'll be as widely applied and accepted, so that everybody's going to have, I don't know. And let me ask you, what would it be? What would that be like if you envision that? You know, what is the ultimate place for cannabis in Americans' lives? Is it is it going to be that everybody's going to have like a little eighth of whole herb, as we like to call it, whole herb, or is it going to be
see that? But think
oil
about
and derivatives,
Adam, the vast majority of Americans are going to the health food store to get their herbs. They're not growing their herbs. I encourage people to grow their herbs, whether it be thyme, oregano, and things like that. But I think ultimately, that's kind of coming back to that connection to the land, that we all grow our own medicine.
Yeah.
So inevitably, it may be available via like the CBD-rich hemp oil. Right now, you can get it in a health food store. People don't know that. But will the THC side of it, or will there be more shifts? Will that take a decade or longer because of the psychoactive component that some people are very nervous about? But the ultimate thing is, yes, I agree. I believe every household should have it, just like I believe they should have dandelion growing instead of weed killing it, because the ability to heal the liver and the kidneys with dandelion. But we should think of the cannabis in that way. And in that context, we've got to change our mind from these pills of big pharma to the plants of creation. And that will just be one of many, but we've got a long way to go to change the culture in America for that to occur.
Well, at least, I can't say I'm here growing dandelions, but at least I have some dandelions in a bottle from a cleanse that I did recently, and very, very grateful to be able to have that perspective that you share with your listeners every day. Are we coming back?
We're coming back here. Give me 5 seconds. I'm going to count us in. 3, 2, 1. And we are back. The Robert Scott Bell Show simulcasting with Adam Kokesh. Adam versus the Man online. Check it out. We have him linked up in the show notes at robertscottbell.com. Of course, 6 days a week broadcasting live through naturalnewsradio.com, GCN, our syndicator, and Digital Radio 103 down in Australia, UK Health Radio out there across the pond in England, and parts unknown, we don't know. But Adam reaching out to them all, and we're having a great discussion on cannabis. Glad to be connected with you finally.
And broadcasting live at adamversustheman.com/live. And I should turn it over to you. I mean, do you have any questions for me or stuff you want to get into about my experience?
Yeah, well, certainly. First and foremost, for my audience, how do people listen to you? And are there archives if they don't listen live? Can they catch them anytime?
Very, very carefully. That's how they should listen to me. AdamVersusTheMan.com. Yeah, we do a 2-hour podcast 5 days a week. And we just got started last week after a brief hiatus after my 4-month government-induced, taxpayer-funded spiritual retreat in the D.C. jail system. And we're back on the air now, Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. And we take live calls by Skype, which is a lot of fun to do video calls. We haven't had a lot of video bombers yet with anything crazy, but well, as soon as we get off here, we'll be taking another guest, Michael Salvi from Philadelphia, and then we go to Skype for calls every single day, and it's a really fun conversation. But we do the audio podcast. You can get that at adamversustheman.com/podcast and our YouTube channel as well. We do a lot of special features, and as you know, really one of the things that people like about my production that I think is one thing that I do really uniquely, at least, is a kind of Socratic dialogue, man on the street style interview, where we get to challenge people's assumptions and at least expose their inherent contradictions as statists and the cognitive dissonance. So we had one actually about marijuana. I was at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, in just about a month ago in Maryland. It's a good thing it wasn't in D.C. again this year, because I'm actually banned in D.C. If I step foot in the District of Criminals now, I could go back to jail right away for 20 months. Kind of an interesting proposition they've put as part of what came out of my legal case. But anyway, I was actually talking to a guy, why do you support marijuana prohibition? And actually got him to engage in at least what was a rational conversation. But you go, why? Do you really is it more dangerous than alcohol? No, but it's not accepted, so it should be illegal. And I'm coming at him going like, well, you're a conservative, you support the troops, right? I'm a vet. I came home and wanted to treat myself, for PTSD symptoms with marijuana. You're saying I should be locked in a cage, that for that, men with guns should come and lock me in a cage. When you put it like that, I ask him, well, what's your enforcement mechanism that you support for marijuana being illegal? Well, I support traditional enforcement. And what, you mean locking people in cages and sending cops to take them away? It's like, this is why people can't grow their own herb, because this is the result. But yeah, we're coming to that point where we're extending that into cultivating marijuana as well. But you know what? I got to tell you, Mr. Bell, I've grown marijuana actually. When I was in New Mexico, I had a permit to grow personal marijuana for personal medical usage, and I had a little closet operation. And as fun as that was, I really don't recommend it if you're only going to do just for yourself, because it is more involved than growing dandelions or a little parsnip in your backyard. It really is an involved process to do it right.
Oh, yes. Being a farmer is not easy. We all need to become that again, to grow more of our own food and bring things into a local interaction. But again, this is a big issue, and it's impacting globally. I mean, we've got listeners all over the world now hearing this message that have also bought the lies, and quite honestly, I had too, concerned about it, as absurd as it is now looking back. How are we to believe that we could demonize a plant that is of creation? And yet, this shows you how gullible the human species is.
Sadly, yeah, and we suffer for that gullibility. But fortunately, we have people like you to bring the counter narrative. It's just amazing that we got to this point where the lies of the modern medical industry have so dominated society, and people just fall for it. But not anymore.
We've had some impact, Adam, and as if I've appeared on Fox News, believe it or not. They have a supermodel, Carol Alt, has a weekend show, and I put out the medical history of America, and it was shocking. I still can't believe they actually aired that. So we're making inroads into places we never would have thought we could get to before. And we just keep at it because, like you said, we know we're right about what we're talking about, but we recognize there's a lot that we're overcoming in terms of the program of the population. But I think people are that fed up, and they witness the things that you've done, and they start thinking, wow, reality is not what I thought it was.
Wait a second. Are you trying to tell me that the only real requirement for getting a show on Fox News is being a supermodel?
Well, it helps. I'm just saying it helps. Listen, I got to take a break here. Stick around. I got a couple of more minutes with Adam. Well, he's going to be going, but I'm going to be hanging out with him for a couple of more minutes, and we'll be back with more broadcast healing on the Robert Scott Bell Show, robertscottbell.com. We have links to Adam Kokesh and Adam versus the Man. Great guy. We enjoy him immensely. So stick around. Lots more healing to go. Yes, political healing too on the Robert Scott Bell Show.
All right, Mr. Bell, this is amazing. All right, so we've got just a couple minutes here to wrap this up. I just give you a chance for any final thoughts on, where we are with the drug war right now, how it's coming into an end, what we have to look forward to as the weed is freed and fully utilized.
Yeah, I think that taking the concept of not only cannabis or this plant into every aspect of our life, realizing that our food is our medicine. It's not like it's a new concept, but I've been encouraging ever since I've been broadcasting that we've got to change our eating habits. We've got to eat cleaner. I'm not saying everybody has to be a vegetarian, a meat eater. I want you to find out what's right for you. But clearly, we can't eat toxic, genetically modified food and think clearly. I mean, it's corrupting us on every level, including spiritually. So we see these, what we might call the enemy in government, in regulation, in child protector, or even in medicine. And they're a product also of mineral deficiencies. They're a product of mercury toxicity and things like that. And so I just keep encouraging people to clean up, detoxify, and they'll be able to see through the lies that have been just perpetrated throughout our entire life. And it's now like embedded into the fabric of our DNA. So it takes a lot to undo it, and suddenly you wake up and it's like you don't even know what planet you're on for a while till you reset yourself. But this is part of what we're here to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Robert Scott Bell, robertscottbell.com. All right. And we go now to Michael Salvi in Philadelphia. Let's see if we can get him on here. I'm going to type that in. All right, now, Michael Salvi is an old friend of Adam versus the Man and a great activist from Philadelphia who has done just incredible work with his own production, with live events, with supporting civil disobedience and everything out there in the city of brotherly love. And he was there for our arrest and was very supportive of me while I was in jail, not just in Philly, in the Philly prison the federal prison, but also in D.C., in the D.C. jail. He works in real estate and hosts a weekly live podcast named after him, of course, Mike Salvi's World. And as it says here, he just wants to be loved. No? We able to get him up? We got him on and off. Anyway, let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mike Salvi. All right.
No, we able to get him up? We got him on.
Welcome to the show, Mike.
Let's see.
I can hear you.
You got to turn off the live stream. Come on, dude.
I'm sorry.
You're a pro. What the hell's going on here?
Well, I'm getting things. It's weed week. Give me a break.
It's weed week. Well, what did you do to prepare for this interview, Mr. Salvi?
Wrote some things down. Actually, I brought this out. This is a book that I like. We can dive right into this if you want to, but
The Parent's Guide to Marijuana.
Because it's a book called The Parent's Guide to Marijuana, and it's written by Dr. Mitch Earlywine. I think with this day and age, especially there's a lot of parents that are in their 30s that are raising children, or however old they are. But there's parents that are raising children that either have smoked or are okay with smoking. It's like it kind of or smoke now. And it gives you a different perspective on what some of these parents have gone through. They did this study with a whole bunch of people over a certain amount of time, and they took some of the statistics from it, and they just kind of made it a book where you can talk to your kids about marijuana in a different way, not necessarily definitely don't leave it up to the schools. You know what they're going to say, and it's going to come up in a bad way. And God forbid your kid raises their hand in school and says, "Well, you know what? My parents smoke and they're okay," and then all of a sudden, their house gets raided. So you got to be careful with stuff like that.
Well, this book is published by High Times, right?
It is, yeah.
So shouldn't it be titled The Children's Guide to Marijuana?
The Children's Guide to Marijuana?
Or is that just what High Times is?
I guess so. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I brought that out here because I thought that was important to talk about.
Very cool.
There's there's the difference in government and whether people petition or get laws passed to remove certain restrictions or just to totally legalize things. There is still a whole host of people that, like, the people that want those laws that way, some of them exist like that in real life. You kind of got to break certain paradigms with them too. So there's a lot of conversations. I think one of the things Terrence McKenna said is, stoners need to just kind of come out of the closet and say, here we are.
We're everywhere.
Like, look, there's so many different people that give great examples of
we're in your White House.
What they do every day, even though they use cannabis. And guess what? They're not out there shooting and killing people, and they're having a good time. They're actually enjoying themselves.
In fact, just to point out, stoners have actually already taken over the White House, the Department of Justice, Congress, and most agencies of government are just riddled with stoners. I mean, it's worse than the Red Scare. It's like the Green Scare. The stoners are everywhere and need to be outed.
Well, yeah, but there's nothing to be scared of. That's the good part.
Oh, okay.
So, hey, man, how you been? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I'm great. I mean, we're live. We're broadcasting. It's like, hey, we're back on the air, and things have been pretty smooth. People are digging the show. But
I feel like you relaunched, I think you relaunched 4 times in a row one week. I felt like every post was like, tonight's the debut. Tonight's the debut. It just felt like that.
No, but that sounds like a really good marketing strategy. Hey, guys, get ready for the new debut of Adam vs. the Man next Monday. Tune in for a special episode right here at adamversustheman.com/live on Monday. Yeah, come back Monday. Anyway, is that how you market Mike Salvi's World?
I think, yeah, I'm going to start. You know what? I heard you earlier on the other interview. I'm going to steal this from you. I thought this was great. When people say, how can people listen to you? Listen very carefully. I'm stealing that. That's beautiful.
We'll appreciate that. But we have something much more important to talk about that we've brought you on here for today, which is to, for the very first time, release the results of your incredible 20-year case study of marijuana experimentation. Tell us, how did that turn out? Are you not a worthless stoner now?
No, yeah, we can talk about that. So I've been part of this study. It's been 21 years, and I've been part of this cannabis study. And now I've been the only one involved. But my life is fine. I've been using cannabis off and on for, ever since I was 14. I don't know if I recommend anybody starting at the age of 14. And I don't know why. I just think that maybe not. I mean, it worked for me. I'm fine. My life is pretty awesome. I'm back working out. Like this winter, I don't really count for much of anything. I hibernated all winter. It was freezing here. It was almost impossible to get out. So, but now that the weather's better, like I'm out, I'm moving around, I'm doing things. Listen, I've never missed a mortgage payment. My refrigerator's full. So the results of the test have been, it's okay to use cannabis off and on as a responsible person, just because, if you're an irresponsible person and you smoke, that just means you're an irresponsible person who smokes. That has nothing, I don't blame peanut butter on, if somebody kills somebody, they happen to like peanut butter too. I don't blame the peanut butter. Not that peanut butter makes you, whatever. Peanut butter is awesome. You get the idea. So but the results are good. The results are in. Everything's all right.
Now, you did this under regular medical supervision, correct?
Yeah, Dr. Michael Salvi prescribed the entire thing.
And can I see Dr. Michael Salvi, for a prescription myself? Is that possible? Can I get in on the study?
We're live, right?
Yeah.
No, we can't. Because I live in Pennsylvania and we can't do that.
So this entire study was conducted outside of the jurisdiction of Pennsylvania, correct? Yeah.
The law, yeah.
The law. It was conducted under the jurisdiction of the natural law, in which you have the right to put whatever the hell you want in your own body.
You know what? I've never tried anything. I didn't start doing psychedelics until I was not that I do them every single day, but I didn't do my first. I never tried my first psychedelic until I was 31. I've never done. I did dust by accident once, but I've never touched cocaine.
Hold on,
so
no.
As far as the gateway thing.
You know what? This is where no. I got to call bullshit on you here, Michael, because we've heard this argument before. No, marijuana is absolutely. Clearly a gateway drug to more dangerous drugs. And I can tell you this, I have a far greater statistical backing than you do. I have not met a single person who has smoked marijuana who has not at least tried alcohol or cigarettes. And I think it is a very, very serious risk. if you smoke marijuana, you might also do some legal drugs that are going to be very dangerous and detrimental to your health. So let's not discount that argument. Now, that doesn't mean marijuana should be illegal, but it is a dangerous gateway drug.
Okay. Well, I think, no, the first time I smoked a cigarette was because some girl I wanted to hook up with was smoking a cigarette too. It wasn't because I was high. It wasn't because, actually, so I did. I smoked pot before I ever smoked a cigarette. And I didn't touch alcohol until I was like 19. So, I mean, there was a good 5-year run that didn't lead to anything else.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope there are a lot of children listening.
Include that in your statistics, which was part of Dr. Michael Salvi's study.
We'll get your data uploaded to our server and make sure that it's properly assimilated with the rest of our analyses.
It's all open source, right? We can all add stuff to it, I guess. Yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on in Philly, though? I mean, Philly's got a really incredible activist scene. You know, we talked to N.A. Poe earlier this week about his run for city council, and you know, the status of smoke down prohibition and marijuana activism. Can you comment on that? And also, what was the impact of the series of smoke down prohibition events that we did together?
Well, after 12 smoke down prohibitions in a row, the city of Philadelphia, for what it's worth, the city of Philadelphia met with, city council actually met with some of the organizers and the activists that were out there. And there's a bill that, I don't know if Poe got into it, but long story short, there was a bill that was passed, and then it kind of got like, it passed one house. I don't know how they all work, but it passed like a certain house, then it has to go to somebody else's house. But it passed the first house, and it's getting held back. But it was to the point where marijuana decriminalization, like it's here in Philadelphia, but they can still arrest you. The police can still find somebody smoking a joint, arrest them, take them in. They're released from jail. There's no record, but they still have to take a $200 3-hour drug course. And
hold on a second. Hold on. I got to comment on this because this is just so insane that we are spending all this money on the drug war now, and a lot of it ends up going into treating people for addiction to a substance that's not addictive. And it's like we can't admit that we're wrong, so we're going to force you to listen to us for 3 hours in a drug education course while we either lie to you or admit that we're totally wrong and that marijuana is not as dangerous as alcohol. Like it just this like you have to get past like what is the bureaucrat who goes, well, it's the law, I'm doing what the law says, and like get past that to see like what is. Like, if you were to personify this behavior, who would it be? Who would the government be in this case? The government is that really awkward, annoying asshole that you never hang out with because he can't admit that he's wrong ever. Just has to be like, oh, no. Well, here, let me explain to you for 3 hours why marijuana is dangerous and why this slap on the wrist is still entirely appropriate, even though you've totally proven that marijuana is safer than any of these other drugs we've already made legal. It's that guy.
He's that annoying guy that eventually just leaves your clique of friends because nobody wants to be around him anymore. So maybe that it really there's the who is government? There's your answer. We just ignore the government, just like you ignore that guy, and he goes away.
Yeah, but you can't ignore the government because he comes back with guns. But yeah, who is government? Government is that guy.
That guy. Absolutely. So, anyway, so what I was getting at with the bill is what this bill would do would actually take it away from the police, that they wouldn't even be able to arrest you. So they wouldn't even take you in. It would just, they would write you a ticket. Not that anyone is for that, but the mentality is they're pulling back the arrests, and that's got to count for something.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah,
as far as on the books go, that was actually the result of smoke down prohibition. So for anybody that says it wasn't worth anything, well, maybe it is, because next year, if that passes, 4,000 people won't get arrested.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, and that's
there's that advantage as far as
hold on, I just want to say eliminating an arrest, stopping a single arrest from happening is not just the law enforcement resources on that day or in that event or in that moment, or the cost of processing one person, or the punishment. It is the deterioration of the quality of life for someone for who they are impacted when they are impacted by having an arrest on the record, for having to go back to court a dozen times, even if it's someone who's like an artist working for themselves or whatever the case may be, or they've already got a record. It doesn't matter. A single arrest, like whether the cop decides to fill out that form or not, it can lead, as a matter of thousands of hours of resources get wasted on absolute meaningless bullshit or not. And 400 arrests not happening is the saving of probably 400,000, maybe 40,000, man hours and an incredible amount of quality of life being preserved.
Yeah, while they're arresting a guy who looks like N.A. Poe, who knows what else? Who knows what other things could be done out there? A cat needs to be saved from a tree or something. We don't know. I mean, they could be out there doing something else.
Well, no. Actually, this is. I think it was in Philadelphia. That I keep referencing this. There was a crime lab that had rape kits backed up, but the same department that was in that situation was pursuing people for marijuana charges, and it's just like absolute clear demonstration that when you entrust public safety or law enforcement resources to government, they will put more of them towards busting people for smoking pot than stopping rapists. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about real criminality at all. Like those priorities go completely out the window. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're right. So there's a lot to it. It's not just a simple, that's great. I'm glad you went through that entire explanation, because that stuff needs to be articulated as well, because that stuff lands on specific ears. We don't know who's listening.
There could be kids listening.
As far as ideologies, and some people are just listening and may hate everything that you say, but it's still sinking in, who knows, whatever. But all these things need to be included, because there's going to be a point for everybody where it makes them go, you know what? Yeah, I need to help out, because that's right. 4,000 people in one city in 1 year don't need to get arrested for something that they're going to get set free in the morning for anyway. So those things work out. And then activists, I mean, the amount of people that have gotten to meet and gotten together, the Panic Hour and, TFP and everybody else that's been out in Philly really created something special. There's a lot of people that want to keep coming out and keep protesting and, just keeping the drum beating, and that's great. Same thing with Poe. I mean, I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of him walking around the city with a suit and tie, and he's bringing. It would be so awesome if he won. I mean, it would literally be like the Rocky story. But Rocky lost the first movie anyway, so maybe he will lose. But
no, it's one of those races. It's worth it for Poe if he wants to keep running and be that perennial candidate as a part of his activism in Philadelphia. That would be awesome.
But look what he gets to do, and I know he walked through this on your show the other day. But I mean, he's going to do He's talking about these main points that no one else is talking about: decriminalizing marijuana, stopping funding. The city of Philadelphia spent $10 million on this intelligence center that's here, the Delaware Valley Intelligence Center. It's nuts. And doing a comprehensive audit, and then abolishing the the Philadelphia Parking Authority. And these things are at least getting talked about, and you get free advertising. So. Sure, run. I'll say vote for Poe. Absolutely.
You have any, you gotta have some kind of like stunts up your sleeve for Poe. Is he planning on like doing since he can't smoke marijuana in front of Independence Hall, maybe he can do a streak or something, Well,
considering that Smoketown is a month before Election Day, I don't know that whole streak for his campaign.
Well, he could just show up at Smoketown Prohibition naked, that would be... You can't smoke pot, but he can do that, right?
Well, he's done it before, so who knows? Maybe. I'm not sure.
But you got to be planning something. What are you doing to support Poe for this?
Well, I ran up the Rocky Steps with him, and we made a video and we put it out, and so just to show my support. And at the top of it, like the two of us were so out of shape, we couldn't even finish it. We were just talking huffing and puffing at the end of the video.
Hold on, can we pull this up? Let me see if we can play this. This is a quick campaign promotion video.
Yeah, it's like a minute long. It's let me see if I can send it to you. It's on Dude Where's My Change on YouTube. Shout out to Chris Monco.
I got it. First beat, dude. All right, don't worry. Yeah, let's see. I got the channel. We get the videos. Dude, where's my change? NA Poe's first press conference, or Mike Salvi endorses? Which one here?
Yeah, when I endorse him.
All right.
And by the way, we're trying to get an endorsement out of Allen Iverson. I really are. I really want to get that.
All right, hold on. We've got it pulled up. Let's hear this.
Break Libertarian Code and get my... My name is Mike Salvi, and I'm here to break Libertarian Code and get my full endorsement to NA Poe for City Council.
Who is a Libertarian nominee?
Who is a Libertarian nominee? I will go on record to say that nobody is better than Poe for this job. And to prove that, we're going to run up the Rocky Steps.
Well, he can run up steps. He's got my vote.
People should be doing that.
I think that I got quit the campaign.
I think so
I
too.
think the end of the campaign right
And
now.
the song cut out halfway through, but ladies and gentlemen, voteforcitycouncil.com.
We're a mess.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that, Michael. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Anything else you want to plug today, or tell people about what you're up to with Mike Salvi's World, or
I have
local
a
events?
request from the president of Sons of Liberty Riders, and I'm going to read it directly. It's a request to you, and that is, hang on, let me just pull this up. Tell him to stay out of trouble till after Memorial Day. And the reason why he said that is because last year when you and Poe got arrested in Philly, I was supposed to go down to D.C. for Rolling Thunder with like 500,000 other motorcycles, and I was so exhausted. I was like, I'm gonna die if I try to ride for 2 hours on a bike. I'm gonna kill like too many people. So now I just sat it out, and so that was the request because we're going again this year. But so he's basically saying no excuses, and for you to stay out of jail at least until then.
Well, I'll be doing my very, very statist best. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks.
All right, we're going to take some Skype calls if we have some time left in the show. If anybody's queued up here, let's go to our recent chats. Jack Nelson is on the top of the queue. Submarine vet, studying sustainable architecture. Actually here this time. I'd love to chat with you. All right, let's see if we can get Jack on the line. Denver dwelling submarine vet to talk about sustainable agriculture, the open source movement, and the future. All right, Jack, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having me.
Can we get some video for you?
I'm not coming up. Let me see. Got you on my phone here. Front camera.
Excellent.
Boom,
Beautiful.
There we go. All right, the future is now. It's like that scene from The Cable Guy.
Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Sorry I missed you yesterday.
No worries. And you know, as a Navy submarine veteran, is there a connection with that and sustainable architecture?
You know, I think there absolutely is. That's really what sparked my interest in it, and I think it's a brilliant way forward, not only for us as a country, but for the libertarian movement. I'm originally from West Virginia, and we didn't have anything. We're a coal state, so we didn't have anything like what I saw whenever I joined the Navy. You know, once you get into the submarine force, you are in your own element. I don't think there's any more sustainable community than a submarine out at sea.
Okay.
We generate our own water, we generate our own power, all of that. And when I saw that stuff, again, not being familiar with it at all, coming from where I was from, it kind of sparked in me like, wow, why is this not part of the infrastructure of the nation? Why do we not use this kind of technology for things other than, you know, the giant, intimidating, mega nuclear phalluses of freedom that we have running our defense? So it was mind-boggling to me. And then the more that I dug into it, the more that I saw that there actually is a push towards implementing this technology on various different scales. And I think that scalable sustainability is huge.
So
and that's
hold on.
really what my focus is on.
So your takeaway was that all we need for sustainable living is nuclear reactors and the subsidization of the military-industrial complex at the hands of the IRS through the American taxpayers,
Absolutely
right?
not. No. I think the concepts are applicable. And again, I think scalability of the systems that you use in order to achieve that objective is key too. You obviously don't need to have a nuclear reactor. You're seeing a lot of things that are going on right now, say with what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla and Solar City. They're essentially creating the infrastructure to have not only the solar panels at economy of scale, so you're reducing the cost of them, but then with the giga battery factory that he's constructing for the Teslas, you now have a power storage system, which the solar industry really hasn't had an answer for up until now, where it's like, okay, you're generating power during the day, but then you have to rely on the grid at night in order to keep your house going. It doesn't make any sense. So for being truly off the grid, they now have a sustainable answer that makes sense.
Okay, so pitch me on this concept as a totally uninformed average American. What is sustainable living? How is it going to make my life better?
Well, I think that it's essential to having a truly free libertarian concept so far as how you want to live your life socially. Right now, the way that most people depend on living is entirely based on, okay, well, I'm going to, inhabit this house, which you can get into discussing the entire housing market and how that functions. The house itself is not particularly efficiently designed, and all the systems that you utilize in the house in order to improve your life are based around depending on external resources being provided to you and you having to access those resources. You're generating none of those services for yourself, and you're essentially entirely dependent on external influences in order to run your life, that's not a very resilient model to have. And I feel like if we're going off of our American concept of how we should live, we should probably try and be as resilient as possible on an individual basis, and then on a community basis, and then scale it up from there. But now, the electrical grid, hell, you take out 1-2 massive, power stations in the country, and you lose an entire coastline. It's incredible. So I think the resiliency and the independence that the sustainable design movement provides is huge for us moving forward.
So what's the next step? Where are people going with this? What's the immediate application, do you think?
I think it's mostly just a matter of economy of scale. Once we get the ability to scale up those different, because bottom line, the systems are expensive now, which is why we're using the economy of scale of, okay, we'll have a massive station to provide those
hold
services.
on. There's one other important. There's one important reason for that. I'm sure you're aware of, but haven't quite mentioned, which is that the reason we don't have solar power, the reason we don't have wind power, the reason all of those other alternative energy sources or even food sources or what have you are still as expensive as they are, and they're really not, is because all of the competing industries are subsidized by government. The oil and gas industry is heavily subsidized by, the building of the roads is subsidization of the oil and gas industry. All of the entrenchment of corporatism is subsidization of existing industries that prevents innovation. Obviously when it comes to energy, but even in food, corporatism is essentially a subsidization of food processing and mainstream food delivery services rather than being able to grow your own locally or come up with more sustainable alternatives.
Right, that's 100% correct, and I wasn't really going to get into the subterfuge of
How
government.
do we blame government for this?
To the audience, it might be a little bit too self-evident. So I guess just talking about the more economical concerns of it are a little bit more effective than also the government's fucking it all up. But,
awesome.
No, absolutely, and I think so far as your concept of how to strive towards a libertarian ideal society, I think in a nonviolent way, which is huge. I think that this concept is key, because eventually, if you start developing communities around this kind of philosophy where you make them self-sufficient, you can wean yourself off of government and by proxy the industries that are subsidized by government, to the point where eventually you're completely non-reliant on them, and then they have no influence over you. That's about as nonviolent as it can get. So I think it's a huge concept that's going to, in tandem with the open source movement that's happening now with open source designs online and 3D printing revolution that's going on right now. As soon as those start to scale up, those industries, if you have the startup capital that you can get, essentially a kit that will allow you to have this sustainable community, you basically can just go, all right, well, we're off the grid. So everyone else, good luck with whatever you're going to do and try and figure out the mess that is the federal government. We're going to have our own little node over here. And then, hopefully that spreads like wildfire. But there is obviously startup costs that have to go with it as well.
Well, with the approach of the post-scarcity economy, we are certainly rapidly approaching all of that becoming very readily available. Thanks so much for the call, Jack.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze in a couple more before the end of the show. We got Paul Staden. All right. Jeffrey, you might want to help me out with this one. Paul Staden writes, I missed yesterday's podcast with Jesse Ventura. What does it mean to be kokeshed? Being kokeshed is in the eye of the beholder. All right. I don't know. Is there? Do we need to say anything more than that, Jeffrey?
Or it's a wrestling move.
Or it's a wrestling move. All right. Jacob Kelly. We got an update about the Smokedown Prohibition event coming up in Youngstown, Ohio. So let's see if we can get Jacob Kelly on the line here. Jacob.
Adam.
Hey, welcome back to the show. You know, we've got a few callers we want to squeeze in the last few minutes here, but please, if you would take just a minute, we have your video up from the last time you called in talking about your Smokedown Prohibition event that you've got coming up in Youngstown this Sunday. And, I'm glad you called back as we requested to give us an update. So if you would take just a minute, take just a minute, plug your event and let us know what's the status and how things have progressed in Ohio.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for giving such great promotion to our event. That was really helpful. We have about 60 said that are going, about 48 that are maybe, and we already had the person that directs the park. His name is Bob Berkey, and I'm going to call him out here. He already he Facebook messaged me first, and he said that, you need to call me to get a permit. And so what I pulled out is, here, this is my permit.
Yeah, I knew it.
I do not need anything else. And
excellent.
Then, after I showed him that, he was like, we're going to have family events in the park on that day, so could you please move somewhere else?
No, this is a family event too, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I told him to basically to go screw himself, and he got offended and called the cops on us. So
wait. He called the police on you now for telling him to go fuck himself, or he called the police on the event that hasn't happened yet?
I think on both.
Wait, no, but police didn't show up to your home yet.
No.
Okay.
No. So, but yeah. The police are notified, which is great. I want as many police there. I want as much as police because they need to hear the freedom message. They need to hear the pro-marijuana message. And also, I planned up and I designed, I'm not going to spoil it. You'll see it in the videos, but the cannabis reflection. And it's going to be a super love kind of cannabis reflection where everybody's going to be interconnected. And I challenge the police. And every single officer that's going to be present, I challenge them to try and arrest us. I think I designed this kind of a interlocking thing that we're going to go on, where people are going to just puff, pass, going around in a circle really tightly. And I challenge the police to try and arrest us. I think it's fail-proof. So I want 1,000 DHS or whatever police they come up there with AK-47s, and I challenge them to try and arrest us.
Damn! Ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Kelly throwing down. The event is on Facebook. It's this Sunday in Youngstown, Ohio. We'll give you the link. But where can people find this if they're just hearing about this now for the first time?
Okay, well, just go on Facebook and search in the blue top bar. It's Smokedown Prohibition, Youngstown, Ohio. And check us out. We're going to have many cameras. So even if you can't make it, just watch the videos later, and it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Mr. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us and for your important work there. All right, that's about all the time we have, but we're going to run through a couple of these chats real quick. Let's see. Captain Jack Sparrow, glad to see you back, Adam. Savvy. Eric Mackey, hey, Adam, wants to hit on some key points regarding the Ventura's interaction with you yesterday. Well, we'll take some calls about that tomorrow. Now that video is up online, we couldn't get it up last night. We had a little technical delay, but the video is up. Jesse Ventura gets kokeshed. #kokeshed. Find that at youtube.com/Adam Kokesh. And I know there's going to be some conversation that comes out of that. Actually, I guess we would have gotten it today if we had had more time. But Eric, please feel free to chat me back with that tomorrow. And we'd be happy to have you on. And since it's Friday, let me see what's on the calendar for Friday. We've got Okay, good. We've only got 2 guests tomorrow, although we might be getting Ed Fortune back because we missed him earlier this week. But we've got Rich Paul and Danny Panzella, really exciting guests. Danny Panzella, a great activist, independent reporter, media producer from Long Island, and Rich Paul, a hardcore marijuana freedom activist from New Hampshire, who also organized a sort of smoke down prohibition event. It's 420s in the park in Keene, and I've gotten to participate in one of those with him. He has a great story about his recent entrapment and his issues there. But we also have one last chat here from Jeffrey from Oregon, running for 41st District as a Libertarian. Questions about approaching constituents on issues. Awesome, Jeffrey. I hope you'll join us tomorrow. I'd love to have that conversation. And Paul chats in again. Love you guys. Good show. Thanks to everybody who chatted in by Skype and got themselves to the top of the list. We really appreciate it. If you want to volunteer or sponsor the show, we are also hiring right now a post-producer paying $600 a week. So if you'd like to apply, email adam@adamversustheman.com, where you can also send your music suggestions for the pre-show mix. Don't forget to come out Sunday if you're in Southern California. We're going to be on the north side of the Santa Monica Pier at about 3:30. Please share the show with whoever you can. And as always, send your love mail to adam@adamversustheman.com. How many libertarians does it come up? How many libertarians? That was perfectly appropriate for the joke I'm about to tell, Jeffrey. I mean, you know what's coming, right? How many libertarians does it take to come up with a corny joke for Adam to say at the end of his podcast? More than are currently sitting in this room. Cool, huh?